This month on the World Sailing Show, the 52 Super Series heads to Cascais. It's double duty for the 470 fleets in Japan. And SailGP faces big wins in Great Britain. But first, the biennial offshore race that has been putting sailors to the ultimate test since 1925. The Fastnet, iconic, fearsome, notorious. It's a race with a reputation as one of the toughest there is, attracting a record-sized fleet of 388 yachts for this year's 605-mile sprint from Cowes to Plymouth via the infamous rock off the southern tip of Ireland.
You could be in the smallest boat in the fleet or the largest boat in the fleet, and you know you have a chance of winning if you sail well and you win your class. And I think that's what makes this race unique and very different to most others around the world.
As the cannons of the Royal Yacht Squadron got the 48th edition underway, the charge down the Solent was led by a group of massive 32-metre trimarans. A leading pack that included Maxi, Edmond de Rothschild, skippered by Volvo Ocean Race winners Franck Camas and Charles Caudrelier, Thomas Coville's brand new Sodebo Ultime 3 and François Gabard's Massif. Behind them, the monohulls, where the challenge for line honours was expected to produce a fascinating duel between the two largest boats in the fleet, the 100-foot Scallywag and her 88-foot rival Rambler, who, with George David at the helm, was looking to add the Fastnet to an already impressive list of accolades. With racing underway, there was a period of calm before the storm, as light winds slowed down the fleet in the transition zone between the start point and the Lizard. The lull proved little handicap to Massif and Maxi de Rothschild, however. Never more than 4 miles apart, the two boats produced an epic display of racing, Massif taking the race lead after rounding the Fastnet. But their hopes of victory disappeared within sight of the finish as Camas and Caudrelier made their decisive move aboard Edmond de Rothschild. Crossing the line a mere 58 seconds ahead of their rivals, they took multi-hull line honours in a time of 1 day, 4 hours and 2 minutes, smashing the previous Fastnet record by over 4 hours.
Two boats and two crews are very close, and they play very well. They are fast also. And to beat them is it's still more happy.
Back out at sea, the weather had picked up and Scallywag and Rambler found themselves racing each other in wet, wild conditions that peaked with 30-knot winds as they rounded the rock. For George David aboard Rambler, the conditions were proving a reminder of the 2011 race when his previous yacht lost her keel and capsized. There was no such drama this time, as Rambler weathered the storm and sailed into Plymouth to claim monohull line honours, to the delight of David.
It's a big deal. We had a very good race, sailed the race well, nothing broke, nobody got hurt. Pretty good race, but it was not easy. It was nice to, frankly, to wear down Scallywag. When it was light, that's where they got the jump on us, and then when it got heavy, that's where we got the jump on them.
But that wasn't quite it for 2019. Arriving 2 hours behind Rambler, David and Peter Askew's VO70 Wizard sailed into Plymouth to claim the overall Challenge Cup, thanks to their corrected time based on IRC handicaps. A result that continued the Americans' phenomenal winning streak in 2019, adding Fastnet honours to victory in the transatlantic race and February's RORC Caribbean 600. The first 2 rounds of this year's 52 Super Series had seen victories for Harm Muller-Spreer's platoon in Menorca, followed by Erzin Imre's Provezza in Puerto Sherry. As the fleet arrived in Cascais, Portugal for the midway regatta of the season, that meant Provezza were leading the overall standings, with platoon in second and Azura back in third. As part of the championship's ongoing sustainability initiatives, the racing was preceded by a local beach clean and visit by ocean advocate Emily Penn, who met the teams to find out more about the Super Series' environmental credentials.
I'm really interested in what influence we think the sailing industry can have. So whether it's through the athletes themselves as role models. You know, today we've had a whole bunch of kids coming up just wanting to, you know, get in a bit of the action around all of these amazing sailors. So, you know, we have a great opportunity to inspire, but we also have an opportunity to influence industry.
We as athletes have a lot of power with the social media, and we need to use that to encourage new people, because certainly I think there are many people that are not really aware of what is happening. So I think we have a lot to do.
And then when you get World Sailing involved and they start changing the rules and actually kind of legislating that benchmark, then suddenly we can see that spreading across everyone.
Platoon had arrived in Cascais without their talismanic Olympic champion and America's Cup winner, Jordi Calafat. The Spanish sailor had injured his fingers and was replaced on the boat by coach Morgan Rieser.
This is the most challenging place we get to sail and the funnest, so really looking forward to it.
The team were also hoping their third pedestal winch at the back of the boat would pay off in the big winds and surf of Cascais.
If we have a pedestal here, the big grinders of the boat can be on the back of the boat to do maneuvering. And the second reason is in some windy conditions you need more power to hoist sails, drop sails and do maneuvers, so you also can add 6 people to grind.
"20-knot winds greeted the fleet on day one of racing. Provezza carrying over their form from Puerto Sherry to win the opening race. Defending champions Quantum Racing had finished in second place and followed that up with victory in race 2. Day 2, and it was Azura who were first to taste victory on the water, with Quantum Racing second again. Platoon made full use of their extra pedestal winch to win race 3, but Quantum were proving to be the most consistent boat on the water as they claimed another second place. Day 3, and Quantum Racing extended their regatta lead by winning the opening race. But the day really belonged to Phoenix 11 under the guidance of Hasso Plattner, who refused to crack under pressure and delivered their first win on the circuit. The big seas were causing relentless difficulties for the boats and crew alike, particularly the bowmen, who were soaking up plenty of mental and physical abuse.
It's been hard, you know, it's been windy and the boat's been bouncing around a lot and downwind, and we stick the bow in and the wave comes back, and it's been a little tough to hang on.
Despite a promising start to day 4, the wind dropped, meaning only one race was run on the inshore easterly arena, with Allegre taking the spoils. But a 4th place finish for Quantum Racing meant they would carry a 5-point lead into the final day. The wind was back with a vengeance for Saturday's finale, with Brunello claiming their first win in Cascais. That left everything to be decided in the final race of the regatta. While Azura stayed offshore, Platoon went head-to-head with Provezza, eventually going through to win in a really tight finish. But Quantum Racing came home in 5th place to win their first regatta of the season and moved to joint second place in the championship, just 8 points behind Azura.
Tough conditions. I mean, it was windy at times today. I think we had some good 30-knot gusts and it was some unreal racing. Wow, this fleet's tight. The whole fleet sailed these boats to an unbelievable level. We lost a few more points on Azura today, but overall we're pretty pleased. So small victory this week, but there's 2 more events with a big goal at the end of that.
This summer saw the 42nd edition of one of France's best-loved events, the Tour de France à la Voile. 23 teams took part in the tour that began in Dunkirk in northern France and finished in Nice after 17 days and 7 acts that took in renowned sailing ports such as Les Sables d'Olonne and Hyères. For the 5th year, the sailors were racing the Diam 24, the sporty 3-man catamaran designed by Bertrand Desjoyeux and Vianney Arcelin. The teams were tested with a mix of 40-mile coastal raids and inshore stadium races, which have made the event popular with the crowds of holidaymakers as they raced along the French coastal resorts. Joining some of the world's most experienced Diam 24 sailors this year were 2 all-women crews and 2 more mixed crews, as the Tour Voile pushes to promote women's sailing. The Oman Sail programme was represented by 4 boats in 2019, including one of the all-women's teams, while their Renaissance Services entry picked up an ACT victory on the way to a 5th place finish overall. The overall success of the tour since it was first held back in 1978 is down to its mix of professional and amateur entries, its engagement with the fans at each port en route, and now the exciting racing that the Diam 24s provide. As the boats headed south, the front runners emerged, and the final battle for victory was played out on the waters of Nice, between Team Beja Fleuret, skippered by Valentin Bellet, and Cheminée Poujoua, led by Robin Folin. And it was Bellet and Beja Fleuret who won out, while 24-year-old Folin and his crew picked up the Young Team Award. Coming up, the 470 World Championships are fought out in Japan. And there's high drama at the UK round of SailGP. Welcome back. Still to come, the latest Olympic news from world sailing. And spectacular action as SailGP flies high in Cowes. First, we're heading to Japan for a battle royale for silverware and bragging rights just a year out from the next Olympics. Ahead of the 2020 test event in Enoshima, Japan, the 470s were staging their own World Championships on the same waters that will host the Olympic sailing competition next year. In addition to the 2019 world titles, up for grabs were 4 Olympic places in the men's event and 6 in the women's, to add to the spots already secured at last year's World Championships in Denmark.
End game is to be world champions. You know, we've been in the class a while and been runner-up a few times, so yeah, here to really put down our best performance.
With racing cancelled on day 1 because of the weather, days 2 and 3 saw the teams putting down early markers in contrasting conditions. In the women's event, Spain's Silvia Mas and Patricia Cantero were the most consistent in the calmer conditions of day 2. When the weather picked up on day 3, 9 different teams claimed podium places in the 3 races, with Great Britain's Hannah Mills and Ailey McIntyre the only team to take victories on both days.
It was exhausting actually. The first race was similar to some of the racing yesterday, so a bit lighter, and then the breeze picked up for the second 2 races, and yeah, just with the short chop and the waves, the pumping flag up, it was super physical for everyone.
The men's competition followed a similar script. Sweden's Anton Dahlberg and Fredrik Bergstrom showed consistency on day 2. While Australia's Matthew Belcher and Will Ryan scored 2 seconds and a first on day 3 to ensure they would be one of 26 boats making it through qualifying to the Gold Fleet Racing.
You just try and get out of qualifying with some good results, and I guess the real event starts tomorrow, and we're looking forward to actually racing sort of all the main guys. So it's going to be, we're happy, but yeah, looking forward to tomorrow.
In the women's competition, race days 4 and 5 saw the British and Japanese teams begin to pull away from the rest of the fleet. Mills and McIntyre scored 2 victories, and Japan's defending world champions Ai Kondo Yoshida and Miho Yoshioka claimed 1.
3 races today in a good wind. I'm really tired, but I'm fighting at the top. In tomorrow's medal race, I want to aim for a gold medal.
In the men's event, Spanish duo Jordi Jamar and Nicolas Rodriguez won the day 4 opener and 2 more on day 5. That left them with a 1-point advantage over the Australians going into their medal race.
We had a really good day, really good conditions. Enoshima delivered really good conditions, and we had 2 race win and a 7, which is really good for us, and we're really happy with it.
Heading into the men's finale, series leaders Jamar and Rodriguez and second place Belcher and Ryan were both guaranteed to win medals, with only the colour to be decided. That question was answered almost immediately as the Spanish crew were taken off the course at the windward mark for being over the starting line early. That left the Australians to sail home in 3rd place and claim a remarkable 5th World Championship as a pair.
All week it's been a really strong battle with the Spanish team, Jordi, and hats off to them. It was just an amazing level of performance from both, and we went our way today. We're pretty excited to win the World Championship together, and we're working pretty hard.
The women's event was a much closer affair, even if it was played out at the back of the fleet. Great Britain's Mills and McIntyre finishing the medal race in 7th place, 1 spot ahead of their Japanese rivals. And that was all they needed to take their first World Championship gold medal together.
We've been trying for so long to win a world, so it's just so cool to finally do it. Yeah, it was awesome. Like, that medal race was so exhausting but rewarding. Like, the Japanese team pushed us so hard. Pushed so fast. They're just fast, yeah. And we just hung on, so we're stoked, super happy.
We stay in Japan now for a further update on Olympic sailing, and the 470 fleets remained in Enoshima after their World Championships, where they were joined by sailors from the 8 other Olympic classes for the Ready, Steady Tokyo test event. Another week of sailing in the testing waters of Enoshima gave next year's Olympians a good look at the Japanese venue and some crucial practice on the courses, where they hope to be battling for gold. While some have already qualified for Tokyo 2020, others are still hoping to book their place. For 470 world champions Matt Belcher and Will Ryan, it had been a very useful but also very long stay in Japan.
We've had a really good battle, I guess, the last couple of months with the Swedish, the French, and the Spanish, and it's been really close. We're just focusing on next year and trying to enjoy the experience, and and hopefully we can finish pretty strong this week.
Each day is a bit of an energy draining kind of experience, so trying to kind of survive through that whole 3 weeks. Hands had a little bit of a tough time over the past days, but yeah, if we can get them through another 2 weeks of racing, then I think we'll be happy to enjoy winter back in Australia.
While the world's best Olympic class sailors were preparing for Tokyo, World Sailing were finalising the race categories for the following games, 4 years later in France. Paris 2024 will level up the amount of medals for men and women, featuring mixed kitesurfing and dinghy classes for the first time. But the biggest excitement is the all-new Offshore event, and World Sailing have fleshed out the details. The Offshore race will feature a mixed crew of 2, and the boat will be a keel boat, readily available and affordable. The final one-design boat won't be announced until the end of 2023. The idea is to avoid an arms race amongst the richer sailing nations, so that every continent is represented at the Games, and the medals are awarded to the sailors who read the waters best during the race. The course won't be set until the last minute to take advantage of the conditions, but will begin in Marseille, and the fleet will spend 3 or 4 days at sea, sailing up to 500 nautical miles. While the new event honours the great French tradition in offshore sailing, for race fans it will be a revolution in Olympic viewing, as not only will they be able to follow the sailors 24/7 via onboard video and tracking systems, but they'll even be able to race the Olympians e-sailing the course alongside the medal hopefuls. The mixed offshore race leads the vanguard of changes that World Sailing are making to Olympic competition, and while we look forward to Tokyo next year, a dynamic future for the sport that will further encourage young sailors and boost female participation too looks to have been secured. It promised to be the perfect homecoming for Team GB. First of the 6 international teams to arrive in Cowes for the European debut of the series. First to take advantage of new technical upgrades and break the elusive 50-knot speed barrier in practice. But that was only the start of the most dramatic SailGP event to date. It began when racing was cancelled on day 1 because of the weather. It continued when racing finally got underway on day 2. Roan Kirby's Team USA capsized in dramatic fashion within 30 seconds of the start. Then it all went wrong for Team GB. Dylan Fletcher's boat took a violent nosedive, sending wing trimmer Chris Draper somersaulting over flight controller Stuart Bithell. The crew only suffered bruises, the boat wasn't so lucky. With their Catamaran 2 damaged to continue, Fletcher was forced to retire early for the 2nd event in a row. That left Team Australia in control, sailing home ahead of Japan to claim victory in the opening race.
It feels amazing. We knew it was going to be tough conditions, bit of survival, bit of nursing the boat, but also pushing when you had the chance, and our guys did a great job.
You got to push it in this stuff. You got to keep your apparent wind. You got to keep the boat ripping. Got a little high on ride height and popped the rudder out and just planted it. There's nothing you can do in that situation. That's just racing.
It's pretty top end conditions, but we're having a fantastic fun out there. Racing rounding was the last bearaway. Just stuffed it in, and unfortunately we managed to break a few parts on the boat, which meant that was us done for the day.
No Team GB for the start of race 2, but USA had themselves back upright in time for more surprises on the water. This time the drama came courtesy of the French, who were penalised for not giving proper right of way, and Japan, who broke one of their grinding pedestals. Unable to trim their wing properly, Nathan Outteridge and crew still managed to limp home in 3rd place behind China and the dominant Australians, who made it 2 wins out of 2. Race 3, and it was France's turn to take advantage of penalties on the water as they picked their way through the fleet to a 2nd place finish. Despite that damaged pedestal, Nathan Outteridge and Japan managed to hold off their Chinese rivals for a 3rd podium in as many races. But no one could stop Slingsby and his crew aboard Australia as they sailed home to complete a clean sweep in Cowes and cement their place at the top of the championship.
To get 3 wins out there today, it was so tough conditions, and yeah, I can't believe it. It is stressful for sure. If I looked stressed, I think it was probably because I was cold. I was freezing there for a few minutes, but I wasn't too stressed. Everyone was in good spirits the whole time, and it showed, luckily.
Next month, a World Championship double bill as the TP52s head to Mallorca. And Lake Garda plays host to 71 of the best windsurfers on the planet.